Well, hello, good folks, and greetings. So, I just wanted to make a quick, short video about some of the things that one of the topics that I feel more people need to talk about because it's serious. It's just that serious. I have shared. I have made a couple videos with some facts about the topic of HIV/AIDS. Unfortunately, statistically, it's saying that it's become very common in, in the melanated community, which I find is very sad, being because there are so many resources and educational references and information. And what I find to be very effective and helpful is when you educate someone, when you bring awareness to something, when you educate people, then it should lower the rates. And then, you should have you should see a better outcome, right? Because that's always the goal. So there's so much reference, so many resources, and there's just so much stuff out there for educational purposes as it relates to the topic of HIV/AIDS. A lot of people talk about the hookup culture and things, and it seems as though this current generation and time, it really shows do what thou wilt, right? People doing what they want to do. And when you get to a certain age and people feel, oh, I'm grown, I can do what I want. Well, are you grown in your age, or are you grown by the number of your age and the years that you've been alive, or are you grown up top? Are you grown in your mental? Are you grown in your emotions? Are you grown spiritually? Are you responsible? And then keyword responsible, because when we are engaging in certain ways and we are making conscious decisions to behave a certain type of way and to engage in certain activities such as sexual activities, then that comes with responsibility. But what I truly believe is that people aren't making really wise and rational decisions, because we know that controlled substances suppresses certain parts of the brain, and people can't make logical, sound, wise, rational good decisions when there are certain parts of their brains that are suppressed. Now, one might say, you said that to say what? Because people that really know me and they rock with my vibe, they know that I get real deep, right? The world and the culture, they literally encourage the turn up and the the indulgence of different things, such as controlled substances, if you will. All of the things that's going to alter your mind and your way of thinking, right? So for me to say this is not for me to say this and for someone to come across my video and then for them to take it and be like, oh, I'm going to try that because I'm just on that type of time and frequency. Because when you know certain things, again, responsibility. But for those of the for those of us that's absolutely tapped in and know what time it is and know certain things, are aware of certain things, right? We know that certain controlled substances, or certain alcohol, when it comes to alcohol and things, certain beverages are aphrodisiacs, right? And if you don't know what an aphrodisiac is, this video is not for you, right? You're probably too young, so you should just click off right now. So, okay, good and bad thing. You're dealing with one person or however many people you want to deal with. Everyone is being responsible for each other. Fine, you're grown, do what you want to do. I say that. I always say that all the time. You're being responsible, you're being healthy, safe. You should do what you want to do. But the problem is, we're talking about a culture and a world, or even to sum it down to break it down to a simplest form or smaller, this nation, right? These cities where there are a lot of black people, right? They're talking about overwhelmingly disgusting numbers of people who have contracted HIV/AIDS, right? So what does that tell me? Like, okay, Queen Bree, what would you advise? What I would advise is for people to really cut back on their consumption of whatever it is that they're indulging in, whether that be alcohol, whether that be drugs, right? And if you can't, then that's a problem. Then that's another thing that needs to be addressed. Like I said before, because I'm a very grown woman, I'm not the type of person that wants to tell grown people what to do, especially when it comes to their desires, because the thing is we're human. People have desires, people have needs, people's desires and needs should be met. But there are some people who are engaging in certain things that don't even have the mental capacity to be even engaging in certain things. Their minds aren't even fully developed. They're not even mature enough, quite frankly, to be engaging in sexual activities, right? And then, you know, there are certain times and circumstances and things, and you know, I like to say that sometimes it's not what you do but how you do it. You know, engaging in intercourse is obviously something that's very serious, especially when it comes to your health. But then on a spiritual level, we're talking about sacred sex, right? But some people, they don't even speak that language. They don't even know that language for real, right? Because they're just not consciously there. They're not on that level of awareness nor consciousness. But when we're talking about people's health, back to people's health, you know, I just don't understand. I guess the part for me to stop is me thinking, trying to understand how people just move, you know, loosely. And let me choose a better word, try to pick a better word, excuse me. I don't want to offend anyone. Sometimes it's just the level of awareness. I understand that, the level of consciousness. Sometimes it's just because people don't know and they're not educated. So let me come back and, you know, try to offer what I can offer on the topic of how to protect oneself. First and foremost, our bodies are very sacred, right? You should view your body as sacred. You should view your body, you know, as a temple. Protecting your body, especially when you talk about sex. You know, I would encourage folks, and I made a previous upload and I shared a video, and I was saying that I would encourage folks to do the courting process, meaning to get to know people, to develop and establish a friendship. And then, you know, if you have these needs, desires, or you just have this burning desire, or, you know, it's nature, right? Obviously I don't want to get too deep in it, but everybody's nature is different or whatever. But if that's just, you're grown, right? But if you're doing certain behaviors, is what I'm trying to say, you need to be responsible. You need to be safe. You know, I've said in previous videos that I've uploaded that, you know, they're not doing it in my house, so, you know, it's none of my business. And no, it's not. But, you know, the jumping into the physical action and just, you know, getting to it is obviously, you know, it's not safe. And we know that it's not safe, right? There are videos and there are people online who have shared their experience with the virus, where HIV is the virus, and then it progresses, and then it turns into AIDS, which is the acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. And they talk about how painful it is, kind of like how people with cancer talk about their experience and how painful that is. So it's like, is it really worth your health? Is it really worth 5 minutes? I say 5 minutes to however long hours or whatever to have a virus or a disease that was absolutely preventable for the rest of your life, even with retrovirus medicine or whatever it is. And then they say, oh, they have PrEP for people. But even when the whole, my thought process on the whole PrEP thing is like, for them to offer people, you know, PrEP is like to say, oh, we're encouraging unsafe sex, or we're encouraging polyamory, or living a promiscuous lifestyle, essentially, right? And then some people may say, on the other hand, no, it's not encouraging, but just like how I speak about certain things, just understanding that people have made the conscious decision to engage in certain lifestyles and behavior. Okay, fine. But still, even with the science and the medicines and all of these things, is it really worth it for real? Is just a moment in a day's time, or say even a week, you know, is it really worth having to deal with a virus or a disease that was absolutely preventable for the rest of your life? So, you know, people really need to be more grown about it, be more adult about it, approach all these things from the perspective of self-respect, self-love, and it's not negotiable. This is not something that should be negotiable. It's a non-negotiable, period, right? Respecting your body, loving your body. You have these urges that you can't control, that's a problem. But if you're engaging in certain behaviors, your health is wealth, protecting yourself, right? They literally have protection for the woman and the man, right? And then there's people who are, you know, they are engaging with people, and then they're not being honest. They're not being fully honest with the person that they deal with commonly, because people are being disloyal, being dishonest, and then they're betraying their significant other and going out and dealing with other people. And then people are being untruthful about their sexual desires or their sexual preferences, right? So they are in same-sex relationships and situationships and sexual acts and behaviors, and then they go back to their significant other, and then they're spreading disease. So again, there is conversations that need to be had. There is some growing up and some maturing that needs to happen, because people are engaging in sexual activities like they really grown, but they're really not, right? People make it seem like they're so grown, but they're not. They're not mentally grown. They are not having the conversations. Do you even have the mental capacity and the awareness to be able to require these certain type of conversations, right? As I said in a previous video, I'm going to say it again. I'm advising one to make sure that you're getting to know the person that you're sleeping with, right? If you want to live a promiscuous lifestyle, some people call it jump off, some people call it hookup, whatever, you're grown. That's your business, because I can't tell people how to live or what to do with their life, because like I said before, people are going to do what they're going to do. All I'm saying is that, can we be a little bit more grown about it, right? Can we be a little bit more responsible about it, right? And then we talk about the sexual aspect. And then if you got a drug abuse issue where you're using intravenously, you know, using syringes and you know, just living a real risky lifestyle, you might want to reach out for help, because this is really getting out of hand. You know, they talk about so many different diseases, and they talk about how they're made in a lab, and whether it's a conspiracy or not, whether it's true or not, the fact of the matter is it's actually real, and it's actually here, and people are really being affected by it. So, you know, I just have the urge to say, you know, stop being nasty. Seriously. Like, people really need to stop being nasty. And I don't see how people feel like, oh, well, it's so cool and whatever, because, you know, in the music, and then, you know, a part of human nature, people want to express their sexuality, and people come and they become, you know, adults, or they become in the time or whatever. I mean, let's talk about it, right? Because we're all grown here. And to try to suppress and try to silence and not talk about sexuality is not the answer, right? Because at the end of the day, we have to talk about all of the aspects of the human experience, right? And a part of the problem and the reason why so many people are acquiring and contracting HIV, AIDS, and all of these different nasty STDs and so many things is because of the lack of education, because there are not conversations that are being had that are necessary, right? If you educate a person, even like there shouldn't be any, you know, young folks or teenagers that are coming across this video, but a lot of teenagers, they get into, you know, bad situations, or acquiring STDs, or getting in bad situations with other people or whatever. A lot of bad things happen because people are not educated, because they're not made aware, because people are not having these conversations. Quite frankly, parents are not having these conversations. If you talk to some women, you will be so surprised by how so many women do not know how to they weren't taught how to properly take care of themselves with their hygiene. They didn't have the birds and the bees talk. No woman has ever talked to them about sex, how to protect themselves. Women are not even on the level consciously, because we could talk about sex and the physical thing, but they haven't even gotten to the level of having the conversation and the awareness about sacred sex. This is on a whole different level, right? We're talking about on a spiritual level, on an emotional level, on a mental level, because of course it's all superficial when this is what the world encourages. This is what the world shows and makes so cool, right? So from the youngster all the way up to, you know, a full grown woman or man, there are children, childlike or childish people in adult bodies that are engaging in mature, very mature and very, you know, very serious acts that they, quite frankly, they're just not ready for, they're not aware of, and they really just don't, they really shouldn't be doing it, is what I'm trying to say, right? So, you know, I just feel as though people really need to start having more conversations with people, start to get to know people, and really control your urges. And, you know, the whole getting in your mind and in yourself and learning who you are and what it is that you need, because a lot of people are looking for love or looking for things outside of themselves that they didn't give to themselves first. Just because a woman wants a man doesn't mean that she doesn't love herself or she didn't give herself self-love, and then vice versa. But when you get to that level where you are ready to properly love someone, you know, that's a whole different level, and that's a whole different level of engaging in such intimacy. So again, yeah, it's definitely like the, you know, the hookup culture and so much irresponsibility and people who are, you know, immature and people who are blatantly evil. Because, you know, I came across something where it was shared that there was a guy who was knowingly spreading HIV, and this was something that was recent, but he's not the first one that has done it. I believe in the state of Colorado, they recently they reduced it to from a felony to a misdemeanor. If it's not Colorado, then it's California, because I remember that. But I can't forget it, because I remember when I heard about it, it blew my mind, because it's, to me, in my mind, that's premeditated. So to think about that, there are people out there that will, you know, will game you or gas you up or butter you up, whatever you want to call it, and they will tell you what you want to hear just to get what it is that they're desiring and what they want, and the whole time they're infected. That should put something on your mind. right? So whatever you do, however you do it, protect yourself. Have the conversation. If you're going to be engaging in adult behaviors and activities, have the conversation. Express yourself and assert yourself in a way where, even though, because all that glitter is not gold, and just because a person is handsome or she's beautiful or they have all of these beautiful qualities about them doesn't mean that they're good for you or that they're even healthy. So even if you get to the point where it's good feelings and now you're feeling it, those things that you feel, and you want to engage because you're doing it properly. If the person really loves you and they are for you and they have your best interests in mind, including your health, they will understand if you say, hey babe, I want to go and I want to get you tested so we know that you're good. And then also I want to do the same for me so that we are both on the same page. And even when it comes to sexually transmitted diseases, also, if you're engaging with someone, you should want to know what they're eating, how they're eating, and what is their internally, what they look like. How is that affecting their behavior, the way that they move? And then essentially, ultimately, besides the topic of sexually transmitted diseases, if you are at childbearing age or if you are able to have children, what is the possibility of having a healthy zygote, embryo, pregnancy, human being, right? So it's a lot. It's really a lot. But I think that it's really shameful and it's ridiculous because, again, it's something that is preventable. And if people aren't out here talking to people and having a conversation, I almost want to say shame on you. But at the same time, I think that's kind of strong because some people are they're not comfortable with the topic of sex. They're not comfortable with sexuality and things. But it's like, oh, it's all on the hush, and then you go sneak around and then you go do it. No. We should be mature. We don't have to be extremely explicit about it, and we don't have to be offensive about it. But education is one of the first and best tools to prevention, if you will. So preventative care is healthcare essentially, and we should keep that in mind. Okay, I'm gonna close this video now. You guys be safe, be healthy, be well. Ashe.